Let's do a review of Wngs by Prtchtt, which is the third in the Gnomes trilogy. Those books being Truckers and Diggers, and going on to Wngs. Now, in Truckers, the first book, a group of outside gnomes, 4-inch people who are living in sort of our world. This is not Discworld country where Terry Pratchett has spent most of his career with 41 novels in a fantasy world. This is a kind of a recognizable real England that we open with, where there are gnomes living sort of out in the rough in the outside world, but are rapidly getting depleted and dying, and it's really hard life. And they basically, for their own survival, they jump on a truck and escape to a department store where they discover more gnomes that have been living there since the store was established in 1905. Now, as outsiders, we get that kind of perspective of traveling in with the outsiders. We get that perspective of these are gnomes who've all they've ever known, because gnomes only live about 10 years. They're sped up metabolism and just general lifetime is basically about 10 years. So 1905, this novel being published in 1989, we're talking 8 generations of gnomes, so that they've lost all memories of anything outside of the world, and so they think that the store is the entire world, and there's nothing outside. They've constructed their whole worldview, their whole kind of religious view on this. There is a Girder, one of the gnomes is the abbot of the thing, and he's very much someone who believes there is no outside world. Now, when the outside gnomes, led by Masklin, come in, they have a tiny little bit of technology, a cube, which they call the Thing, which has been silent for all of their time. But when they come near electricity, it reactivates again and informs them, no, you're not like sprites or fairy folk. You are little alien creatures who've come from another planet, and I am basically your memory box to remember stuff. Also, maybe communications. So they've really got. They don't quite really understand it, and the cube has a hard time. The Thing has a hard time of communicating all this information to the gnomes. But they do have this sort of much bigger picture of what's happening in the world, maybe a more scientific idea of what's happening in the world versus these gnomes who, have out of good faith have used their senses to construct a worldview where this department store has obviously been created for them, and that all the seasons are directed by the different sales. There's Christmas fair, back to school, I guess, or summer thing. That's what they think the seasons are. It's this has all been constructed for the gnomes, because they sort of, like human beings, are very egocentric creatures who think, I'm in this world. It's obviously been created for human beings and to serve human beings. Terry Pratchett, as you might kind of guess, is an atheist, and this is a book that has got very much kind of a sly, humorous, devastating way of putting things to make you kind of, if you do have those kind of belief systems, to feel at least a little bit uncomfortable about it. I'm an atheist, so it probably just preaching to the choir here. But what Thing also knows is, from listening to the very stupid computers of 1989, is that, and the telephones and that, is that the store is going to be shut down and bulldozed within 3 or 4 weeks. So they have that time to convince these very set in their way store gnomes who've got had a good thing going, that this world is ending and that they need to jump off. So we've gone from one kind of apocalyptic escape to the next apocalyptic escape, and that's what sort of happens within the first book, where we're having to kind of move people who are very fixed and set in their ways, who have a very kind of rigid kind of hierarchy system of how things are organized. Very much commentary on our human life. How to do things. Now, that's what happens in the first book. The second book, they've made it to a quarry, to sort of set up a new life. And this is where the books this is where we leave truckers, and we go on to diggers, and we go on to Wngs. And I've talked about diggers already, but I have to kind of talk about them in parallel, because rather than being this book and then this book, it's this book and this book are happening at the same time. In this book, Diggers, we have Grimma, who is one of the gnomes. She came with Masculine from the outside, from the outside, and has come into this world, and she sort of has to try and help herd, get these gnomes to actually to actually realize we're in danger here as well, that this is not a stable place, that the quarry is about to get reopened again, and that this is not going to be good for the gnomes, who are, the store gnomes have quickly glommed onto this as a place. At the same time as that is happening, and she is battling what sort of kind of religious extremists kind of group that kind of comes out of the gnomes, who are like, no, we are going to trust in kind of the great creator, who is the builder of the store, that they will protect us and we will be fine, and against all sort of reason. While that is happening in this book, Masculine and actually the abbot, the kind of more moderate abbot, who's kind of realized things are not kind of have gone off, because they've realized that their only salvation is going to be that thing says there is a ship up there in space that has been left there, that will come down and come down and collect the gnomes and take them to their actual home. So that's, as we split off, I've kind of talked about that thing. We go on, we're into this book, which I did read the third. I think it's numbered 1, 2, 3. I read Wngs third. So in this book, Masculine, 7 minutes to get to this point. Masculine, Abbot Girder, Angelio, who loves to drive. He loves driving these these things. All go off with Thing. Go off to track down a way to get up into space. And indeed, they find out that a grandson of the founder of the store is actually involved in launching a communication satellite. And Thing is like, if you get me close enough, I will get that communication satellite, once it's up there, to come and get the ship for us. So we go off on their adventure, which involves flight on the Concorde, Florida, the whole kind of the whole kind of big rigmarole of the story. I found this book harder to get through. It's like a thin little book, and the other ones I read a lot quicker. I think I read this one. It has that thing of, I sort of know from the end of what happens at this book that what happens at the end of this book. I don't know all the details, and Prtchtt definitely tries a lot to kind of make interesting stops along the way and adventures. But there's a part of me, and the just nagging part of my brain is, I know what happens at the end of this book that happens at the end of this book. So it kind of takes it took the wind out of it for me. It was an interesting experiment, especially in something as kind of commercial fiction, that you have two parallel storylines versus having one storyline and then the next storyline. It's like, it was, it kind of let the air out of the tires for me in a lot of ways. That, and in some ways, I feel like it's one of these, like, should Truckers have just been twice as long and just incorporated all three of these books would have gotten a much better punch to it. That said, I do actually like a lot of the things about this book. It's like it is a fun book. There's a lot of kind of comedic things in here of Terry Prtchtt always amuses, always is a little bit thought provoking. And there's just also like little asides like this one where the abbot who has all through this is like, okay, he finally kind of accepted that yes, the store is not the be all and end all. There is more. That maybe the person who built the store wasn't the almighty creator. Maybe it was just a human who was creating a store. But then we get to the end, and it's like, but you mean this world here isn't all of it? And he expresses something which I feel like is a kind of one of these very, like when he's confronted with, oh God, there's even more. There's like the universe. It's like it keeps on expanding out and expanding out. And Girder turned away. I'm sorry, he muttered. He's crying. It's just that there's so much changing. Why can't things stay the same for 5 minutes? Every time I get the hang of an idea, it suddenly turns into something different, and I turn into a fool. All I want is something real to believe in. Where's the harm in that? Which, I have to say, is a sentiment that I think I feel. I feel myself sometimes in the world of like, oh, I think I finally gotten the hang of something, and it turns out no. Turned out we were all dumbasses to begin with. All at the end of the thing, whether it's about gender or race or just our view of the universe. It's like it's always changing, and you're never on sure footing. You can never say this is this, and it's like it's absolute. You can't do that. And there's a part of me that does want that would like some certainty in my life. And I think you cling to it, and I think you get into habits because of that. And I think I see a lot of fellow human beings who, they react really savagely to when people say, "Hey, we exist too." And people take that as a threat to themselves, and it can be really I find it confusing myself sometimes. It's like, why are you so threatened by gay people? And I mean, people come out with that whole thing of, well, oh, if you're threatened by gay people, then that must mean that you're probably gay inside, and it's threatening yourself. But there's another part of me that thinks maybe it's, oh my God, it's more change in the world, and I've been following this belief system that's told me all my life that this is wrong or this is unnatural, but now I'm supposed to just say, nope, it's fine, which it is. But there's that kind of there's that very human thing of, no, I want to clutch onto my beliefs. So it's not someone feeling threatened because of their sexuality. It's someone being threatened because of their belief system. So I appreciate that someone like Terry Prtchtt, who is obviously very much arguing for, it's like, look, we need to use science and stuff like that to actually kind of view the world, something that is testable and false. And you can actually find, if you find faults in a theory, you can discard that theory and come up with new theories, however imperfect that is, because human beings still, even when it's scientific theories, can clutch onto them for a while before it gets overturned. But it usually can eventually get overturned in a way that I don't think it's a lot harder to do when it's something so self-fulfilling, so kind of like religion is, this explains the world to me, we're done. And there's that impulse that everyone that I think people have, that I have myself. It's like, oh, that explains things, okay, I'm done, I can relax, I've gotten that one done, now I've got to get back to go to work, and I've got enough problems in my life, why do I have to think about all these other things? It's like, we do have to think about these other things. And you know what? I think we have to accept that we're going to be fools for most of the world, most of our lives. We should be embracing being fools, is what I'm saying. So while I do wish that these books had gotten all kind of combined together into one book, this is my, now is turned into my review of the entire trilogy. While I do wish this had been maybe pushed into one series, and that the duo storylines here were maybe just sort of intercut. Maybe that would have been the way to do it. And it could have just been one solid book versus what I think is one really solid book at the beginning, and then two books that are a little bit diluted. I feel like they start diminishing as they go along, especially, unfortunately, the last book, because of that. Even though it has indeed at the very end there, it has Girder having that kind of very human moment, which I appreciate. And sometimes you get the thing of hardcore atheists will start lecturing you and being really brutal towards you, and it's like not really having much in the way of human compassion. And I really feel like Terry Prtchtt, who passed away in 2015, having a Girder, this abbot fellow, going, why can't things stay the same? Why do things keep on changing and turning me into a fool? It's like I think that's probably the greatest gift that that these works can give, that Terry Prtchtt gave us, is it's like, hey bud, I understand, it's tough and we're all fools, and Gotta just embrace that. All right, more videos later.